even 10 years back, I would not have imagined that India will be building like 17,000 kilometers of highways every year. And when you ask people who are involved in the industry, they will say, look, this is still 4-laning, 6-laning of existing alignments. Wait till the expressways come up.
Right.
Right. So the famous Bangalore-Mysore expressway that we were discussing the other day, Delhi-Chandigarh in 2 hours, Delhi-Mumbai in 12 hours. And these are remarkable shifts.
I think this is one example of, silent revolution. I just want to say 17,000 kilometers every year. That is from, Kashmir to Kanyakumari is about 3,500 kilometers. And width-wise, about 2,500 kilometers, right? So imagine like going up and down 4 times every year. And when over 10 years in this kind of infrastructure, crisscrossing the whole country, I think the unlock that enables for the economy is going to be incredible.
Incredible. And now we are starting to become more ambitious, right? So 1 lakh crore project being envisaged in 2017-18, the Delhi-Mumbai expressway, and being executed in 5 years.
Right.
And everyone is excited. The trucking companies are excited. The truck financing companies are excited. The logistics companies are excited. Manufacturing companies will start getting excited, right? I'll give you, it sound like a digression, but it's very important that, the Delhi-Mumbai infrastructure corridor, the DMIC, the dedicated freight corridor basically, industrial corridor and the freight corridor that is coming up is, so I was wondering that on this Delhi-Mumbai route, who will benefit, right? Because now the rail freight costs are going to fall very sharply. The road freight costs are going to fall very sharply. Who's going to win? Manufacturers. Right now, you need to be very close to the ports to be able to manufacture. Suddenly, the whole of the hinterland opens up. Right? So I think the macro infrastructure, the changes that are happening, like Delhi, say Mumbai, Nagpur, Delhi, Chandigarh, Delhi, Dehradun, right? These are incredible shifts. The fact that from my remote village in Bihar, I start at 10 a.m. and I'm back in my Mumbai house in 7.5 hours is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
Right. So and so this is, I think, very important.
And can you touch upon what has enabled this, right? Because to be able to execute 1 lakh crore project, you need capital. You also need a lot. There's so many different states that need to in some ways participate. You also need to have a long term, because highway can't be built in 1 year. You start the project now, it may take 7, 8 years, 10 years, and before it is fully commissioned. So how is it starting to happen, which was not happening?
It's a very, very, very important question, and I'm glad you asked it. The first step here is ambition. I mean, you are a startup king, so you would know that you need to...
Startup में बिना सोचे ambition बन जाता है. $1 billion company बना ली है.
No, it's not as you're trivializing it, but so you need to have a vision. That was इस तरफ जाना है, right? जैसे 98 when the Golden Quadrilateral was envisaged. So if you read Mr. N.K. Singh's book about this whole episode, how it came about, right? So apparently Atalji, the PM at that time, had to give a speech at Fiji, and he said, so he asked someone to write a speech. The speech went, and he said, "कुछ नया बोल रहा हूँ मैं." So it said, so N.K. Singh says, I started saying, ये हमारा समय उनका समय क्यों खराब करना है, कुछ नया बताइए. So then this happened कि चलो एक हम लोग बड़े शहरों को हाईवे से जोड़ेंगे.
Right.
That speech was given. A couple of months later, Atalji in his classic style says to N.K. Singh, घोषणा करवा दी है, बनवा भी दीजिए. Right, so he writes it beautifully, right? So and then this whole क्या करे क्या, मैंने तो सड़क तो मतलब प्लान तो बना दिया है, अब क्या करना है. तो at that time, India had no road construction companies, right? And these were very long projects,
Right.
And so they said, okay, let's divide it into 200-kilometer stretches, and then let's qualify companies that have built it, right? So there were 4 construction companies only that qualified and even they were saying, 50 kilometer ka de dijiye. Imagine that they could not handle projects larger than...
Companies saying no to business because just didn't have the capability or wherewithal.
And they've never done it. Imagine today we are building 40-50 kilometers a day.
Wow. 40-50 kilometers a day.
Yeah, this is 18,000 by 360, right? So And so what has happened over the last 25 years is that I think the balance sheets, the risk appetite, the ability to manage scale of many of these companies has improved dramatically. But the first step was the ambition, right? Ki karna hai, right? And then that ambition has been regularly scaled up. Like when the Delhi Mumbai Expressway was being planned, we all said, "Arey yaar, ye kaise hoga?" Right? And but it happened. And so what has also happened is I think the system has learned how to solve problems. कि जमीन खरीदने में improvement कैसे लाना है, right? So how do you acquire land at that scale? How do you handle issues of कि यहाँ तो मंदिर है, यहाँ तो मस्जिद है, यहाँ पे ये है, so all of that, how do you handle, right? And without creating ruckus, without creating disturbance for a lot of people. And I think so the system has learned, the companies are building.
Talk about system is, are we also able to leverage the whole Indian bureaucratic system a lot better? Because, given IAS, UPSC and etc., some of the really talented people go into that.
Yes.
Or because these are not easy projects, commissioning so much land, negotiating, executing, delivering on timelines.
So one of the things that I think has been very important, and this is something people in the government will tell you, is that the success of NHAI, the National Highway Authority of India, is the fact that it still has only 1,000 people. Everything is privatized.
Okay.
Right. So that's the right structure, I think.
Right.
That the state controls the contracting, the tolling rates, and the how much returns you can make and all of that. But beyond that, everything, even creation of detailed project reports, is to a large extent privatized. So that allows, because then you're making people compete and force them to be efficient.
It's a really lean organization.
I'm
not thinking Cureford mein 1,000 log hone wale hai. I think that's ready to stop.
No. So these are private firms, right? So in private firms, there is naturally the owner, the person whose capital is at risk, will enforce this will happen. At the state level, the state's first tendency is to stay in power, to exercise power, right? And therefore, I think it is prudent to make it lean and outsource as much as possible. Right? It is not wise, I think, to outsource everything, because basic infrastructure purely in private hands is also very bad.
Right.
But I think from an execution perspective, this has also helped. I think big changes are starting to happen in railways, which is very important. Right. So 2/3 of India's freight should be moving on railways, like it does in many other countries. It has been only falling one way for 75 years. The last 2 years, we've seen a bit of an increase. And my advice always is that, look, we were doing 2 lakh crores, 2 trillion rupees of capex in railways every year. My advice was we should be doing 10 lakh crores.
10 lakh crores every year.
Every year. Because you need that capacity. Right. So you need, and this is the most green way. And so think about it from a big picture perspective, right? That a lot of the energy used, because talking about energy and civilization, right? If you have to move faster, you have to use energy.
Right.
Because there's only certain, however fast you may run, you can't run only that fast. When you're using energy, it is important to use energy that you have.
Right.
Because the problem with roads is that the energy currently, at least, that we are using on roads is all imported. The only form in which domestically produced energy can be consumed is electricity.
Because
we have solar, we have coal,
right,
and they cannot be used directly, so you have to use it in the form of electricity. Railways gives you that option. So I think we need to do railways, and I think good thing is that this year the railways budget is 3 lakh crores. Significant progress in electrification.
Right.
I think track laying, freight planning. I think there's logistics planning.
What is the freight cost delta between rails and road?
I think I'll have to, but it is definitely much lower. In fact, I think water is even lower.
Right.
But that's another thing but we have big navigable rivers and we should be using.
Yeah, one of the things, again, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I think like to like, I believe logistics in India, compared to size of the economy, is on the higher side.
It's very high. So
it is costly for us to move stuff.
13-14%, whereas it should be 8-9%.
Right.
So but that cost is, as I was saying, so now if there are roads and railways are going to be competing for the Delhi-Mumbai traffic, costs will come down.
Right. And that will have, again, a significant impact on the economy, because that basically all the businesses will save that much cost, which can go into capex, which can go into improve bottom line, etc., and makes it more attractive investment destination.
And so if you're a say foreign manufacturer operating or wanting to produce in India, you were forced to produce, or you were earlier would have been forced to produce close to the port.
Right.
Now you can use the cheap labor of UP or Haryana to produce there, and then ship it over 13-14 hours. Amazing. So that's the macro infrastructure.